And we're live from the Rez here with our special guest, Mr. Shane Norte in the house. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. How you doing? It's good to be out here and glad to come out here tonight and talk some good things with you, brother. So thank you for having me out tonight.
Absolutely, absolutely. I can't get into this interview without acknowledging something. First off, your beautiful staff. I was looking at the beadwork, and then I dawned on me, holy smokes, your mom's kind of a famous person. Everywhere you go in the Southwest, you'll see beaded gourds, real beautiful beaded gourds. I don't know if she was first. She might have been. I don't know. But I do know when I see a really nice beaded gourd, I look at it, and I know it's your mom's work. And I have one on the wall. So I don't even know if we can see that, but we have one on the wall. And so, I have a couple that were gifted to me and whatnot over the years of your mom's beadwork, man. And you never picked up beading like that?
No, I want to. That's what I want to do for sure because it's a good skill and definitely something cool to have under your belt.
Yeah, me, I like beading, and it's kind of like a meditative thing or it's a relaxing thing. I got my 5 kids, so when I get home, it's like, when I'm really pressed or something, I'll bead. It kind of relaxes me. When my kids are real small, I wanted to do something where I didn't want to just watch TV, but I wanted to be in the room where they were kind of playing. So beading was always cool to bead and watch them run around and do things like that. And so it was just kind of cool for me. And then I got into kind of doing it. But for you, it's generational, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So your mom beads, and then your grandma,
and then hers did, and then back. So yeah, she picked up from her grandma, and now she's passing it on to her mom, well, her daughter, and then stops at my mom right now. So something I gotta pick up. If not, I don't know who will, but.
We got to find yourself a nice young lady and have her beat it into the family.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So what do you do for meditation, all that kind of stuff? Or what do you do to relax the end of the day?
Well, for me, it's kind of just grounding myself to my area. So if I'm having a bad day or maybe something that's stressing me, I've always looked towards sweating. I sweat a lot. So I'll go gather wood. I'll go down to the river, get some rocks, and I'll get all the things necessary to prepare the sweat, and I'll put a call out. Whoever wants to come and help me out, or whoever wants to come sweat. And then I'll sweat and pray it out. I talk to Creator, Mother Earth. and just ask them to guide me. And so far, I've been in a good place. A lot of things have happened, a lot of good, bad. But through this way of life, praying and understanding who I am and my connection here, I've been able to use what the Creator and Mother Earth has given me, and it's helped me to heal and be a better person, and to also share that to other people.
Is that something you kind of always done, or did you kind of pick that up along the way?
I picked up along the way. I mean, I've always known, so I'll give a little backstory, from when I was younger until I got a little older. So growing up on the Rez, I went through Catholic school, did my First Holy Communion, did catechism, I did all that, and I always had an understanding of the Creator, but it was just that through the church system, I could never fully grasp it, how they taught it and how they pushed it and tried to instill about God, and it didn't sit with me. I wasn't sure, I wasn't correct, and so after that time, I moved with my father. And I got put into a Christian school. So after that, I went through the whole Christian thing. I had to cut my hair, I had to wear suit and tie and all that stuff. And it's crazy because I felt like my ancestors. I felt like the older generation that had to go through that, but went through it more forcefully and aggressively than what I went through.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot more traumatizing than what I went through. But I could feel the relation and kind of the similarities to how it would feel to be put into that situation and kind of have no control over it. And so I went through that whole thing, Jesus, Christianity, get saved. And that really scared me. I was at a time where I didn't really understand my faith. I didn't really understand too much of that way of understanding. But I always knew the Creator was there. And then, after that, I got out of that school and I went to public school. And I got into the public schooling. And, I got out of all that religious stuff. But I always knew, like I said, even though I didn't have a full grasp, how I can grasp certain things in this life, I still knew that the Creator was there, and something inside me told me that He was there. So within that time, I went to school, and then I started playing football, and I was pretty good. I was a right guard. I was pretty big, and so I ended up going to JC. I was playing there for about a year, and it was good. Everything was going good. I was gonna get ready to go to SCSU down here. I was gonna play. I was right guard. I was 315 pounds. Doing good. But I got involved with some medicine my brother talked to me about, and he was just explaining to me like, this medicine it really makes your prayers, like if you're talking to God, it's like it makes it seem real. That's all I can tell you. So he gave me some medicine, and in that time, I took that medicine and I really was praying, and I just started asking the Creator, Mother Earth, like I'm here, I'm doing everything they're telling me. I'm trying everything, but I just don't know you. Like, and it annoys me because I could talk to other people here, but like considering how much these people boast about how powerful you are, but yet I can't even talk to you as like you're making your creation, and I felt sad, and so I just, like I said, I kept praying, and then finally I had an awakening, and in that awakening, I was confirmed that the Creator and Mother Earth are real beyond a physical manifestation of what a person can describe it as. And so within that time, it reconfirmed me what I had to do, and I realized that playing football and all that, because I wanted to use that as an avenue to reach the youth, because I wanted to be one of like the first few Native American football players to like join the football, because then everyone would be like, oh dang, he's a football player, like let's talk to him, let's have him come to our Rez. So I was going to use that as like a platform to kind of express what's going on in the Native communities, or what we can be doing in Native communities.
Sure.
And then but the medicine, it really showed me that it's not what you need to do, because I know that football life, Monday through Sunday, and that's a hard lifestyle.
Did you grow up with that? Did you do that?
I didn't grow up with it. I just got into
school?
it. Yeah, once I got to high school,
Yeah.
I started to see my potential and like what I can do and how much I like to take with it, and I knew I could do something with it, But after that medicine, it was like, do you really want to do this every day? Like, do you want to kind of be under someone else's control, like, or do you want to like be free and find out the truth for yourself, and find out what you're really here for, instead of like just thinking you have to do this because it's portrayed as something good or something that people look up to, and so that next day I went back to JC. I quit all my classes, quit football, and my parents were pissed and I got kicked out of my house.
Oh man.
And then that day, I got kicked out of my house, and my stepmom was like, you need to find a house before the end of the night to stay in. I want all your stuff out and all that, because I told them what I did and they just thought it was crazy. And so I had a brother from San Diego, his name is Brian Wilson. He's from Morongo too. And he had an apartment down there. He had a 2-bedroom. No one stayed with him, so he let me come with him. And it was cool because before then, I had never sweat or anything. And the day I got kicked out, I got invited to my first sweat. And within that time, I started really getting involved. That sweat really put me on my path to what I wanted to do and the things I needed to heal and be a better person. So long story short, I was down there in San Diego for about 2 years almost. And then I had a good bro who I sweat with from Oklahoma, because one time I met him out in Oklahoma and he came down. And he was just describing to me that some big movement was going to happen in Arizona, that foreign mining company pretty much is going to take over these Apache people's land, and that there was going to be a big like movement there. And he was saying like, because I explained to him my awakening and things I went through, and he was just saying there'll be people there that'll get what you're saying. Like there's people there that'll understand like those other things, because there's medicine people, there's healers, there's people who grew up around cultural stuff. Because me, I didn't grow up jack around cultural things, especially like in Southern California. There's not a lot of like, there's bird songs and whatnot, but in terms of like ceremonies and real culture, there's really not that much to be like expressed out of those who really know, or like I said, those who are wanting to take it on. But even then, like I was telling him earlier, we had a lot more ceremonies. As Native people, we had a lot more things that we did to keep us in check, to, deal with elements, whatever it may be. Our people had sacred ceremonies, and they did things, and they took medicines too that helped with those ceremonies and helped achieve that state of consciousness or that way of praying.
Sure. It's so true. I was talking to someone today. They said, and we're kind of a group of us are friends or whatever, and I have to go out and sing at a wake here in the next couple of days. And anyways, it was a white guy, and he says, "Hey." He was talking to one of our friends, and the friend's native, and he goes, "Oh, I'm going to the ceremony or whatever." "Oh, I think Raul's going to that ceremony. Is it the wake? Are you going to that wake thing?" And he goes, "No, no, no." He goes, "We're over here." He's out of state. He goes, "Over here, they got more ceremonies than just death ceremonies." It was kind of kidding, but it's sad because it's true. Like here in our region, like the last real strong traditional ceremonies that go way back, sadly, are our funeral ceremonies, our wakes and all that stuff, and then the social stuff around the bird singing. But all of like our puberty ceremonies, our wedding ceremonies, are just the ceremonies where we connected with the water and the land and the different elements, different things that we're told about, the constellations and the paintings we made on the ground. So all of these different ceremonies, we have traces of them maybe, but they're not what they were because that was all ripped from us. And it's sad. You go venture out and you see other tribes they've lost a lot too, but you see they have some of those ceremonies in place. It's beautiful. You can feel it, right? I feel like all of us as Native peoples can kind of rearrange ourselves and tap in and share. I think it's beautiful. So you were out in that Arizona, the Apache Nation area?
Yeah, so I ended up going out there because, like I said, there was going to be a sacred march. So he did it was a 61-mile march all the way from San Carlos Reservation to their sacred mountain, Chichilbadagadea. That's how they say their mountain in Apache. And so I went down there. I left. I just got a new truck. I was 18, and I just shot down there. I left, never left to stay on my own. Went down there, ended up getting down there, I ended up meeting the people. I thought I'd missed it because I didn't know where I was going, but I ended up being at the right place, the right time, and I met with some guy. His name was Vans or Nosy, and I ended up telling him my story, like what happened and who I met. And it turns out my brother Keith, he ended up knowing him, so he was just explaining like, oh yeah, it's a good friend of mine, it's a good bro, he's good people, and I was just telling him, like, yeah, he told me about it, and then he was explaining to me, like, about his brother, and he's like, yeah, my brother's putting on this whole march, he wants to fight back for his mountain and claim back his rights as an Apache man to go back to his sacred mountain and pray, and so in that meantime, then out comes his brother, and he's holding 2 staffs, and he's just chilling, just walking around, making sure everyone's, like, lined up and getting ready, and he just hands me 2 staffs. He hands me both of them. And he's like, just hold these real quick. And then he's like, all right, everyone line up, And he goes, where'd you come from? Just a little quick story about where I came from. Told him where I came from, how I left, California at midnight. I got there the next morning. And so he just like kind of looked at me for a couple seconds. And he's just like, okay. And he looked at the staffs. And then he gave me this one. And he handed it to me, and he goes, here, like, it's usually Apache people that lead these fights. He's all, but today we're going back home, and he's like, we're going to need to all come together to fight, for our lands and for our people and for our children. And he's like, so we need everyone today. And he's like, well, let's get ready, and let's lead this march. And then from there, we started marching, and it's a 2-day march. And when we got there, that's when we ended up praying and making the prayers. And then not too long after that, they had Holy Ground, and that's when he presented this to me in Holy Ground and just explained to me, what I get to do with it. And the staff actually comes from California. He was saying a medicine man gave it to him in a run and told him that he was going to need to give it back to someone from here. And he said, the time when it was ready. And that's when he told me that he thought that was the time to have it back for someone from California to have the staff and come back with it. So that's why I got that staff. And then from there, like I said, we traveled to the whole country, gained over 500 different tribes support. We got a cosign through Raul Grajara, state senator in Arizona, and then our representative in Arizona. And then we also got on track with Bernie Sanders, and he was the cosign to the bill. And we ended up getting with his team, working with him in D.C., and we got the bill pushed through. And in that fight, like I said, it met a lot of tribes, met a lot of ceremony medicine people. And in that whole time, I got involved with like Animus River, tar sands, Keystone Pipeline, Standing Rock. I went through all those movements, and I realized like all this help that I'm giving to these people, I need to take it back home, because I'm not saying I don't care about them, but I need my people to be here with me if I'm going to be here again. Like, if I'm going to be here fighting, like, I'm gonna need my people here. Like if I'm gonna be standing on like pipelines or fighting foreign mining companies, it's like I'm gonna need my people. I can't just be standing by myself anymore because it's hard, it's tough, you know, and a lot of people are suffering, and that to me is not good, especially when I know the power that we have here, not only economically but resources, you know, and the type of movement we could create, not only economically but just simple things like this, you know, just like this podcast, you know, we can make this work and start spreading like wildfire and start collaborating, getting people together on more serious terms about not only gaining back our sovereignty, but our rights as Indian people today to be here and pray on this land. So like, and our people, we have a rock up in La Jolla, and there's actually mushrooms on that rock, and it shows the river, it shows our canoes, and it shows like whales, and it basically shows like us taking down the mountain and then going down, because where this rock is, you can see Oceanside. Oceanside is only like 35 miles from LJ. You know? Yeah. So it's like, especially when you're up here, you can see the whole ocean. And if you think about it, when the San Luis Rey was running at the time, had to be running at least 45 plus miles an hour. So you think you can make a canoe, hop in that thing, and be in Oceanside in 40 minutes, you know, by water, you know, and so that's what I'm starting to come to. Not only that, but our people use things like datura, you know, the Jimson weed, you know, and they had other medicines, and I know damn well that the natives did other things around here to gain their knowledge or become medicine men or be able to gain their songs or their knowledge or their healing, you know what I mean? So like that's what happened with me. So when I took that medicine, the creator basically told me like, not that he's real, I'm just trying to make it in a understandable way, but just stating that like I'm here. Like, I've been here, and I didn't go nowhere.
I think that's hard to do sometimes, you know, just to express these things, because sometimes it's a feeling or an idea or something comes to you. You know, sometimes they say it's a calling. You know, like earlier you're talking about football, and you were saying, like, you know, you were good at it. You were doing it. You could have done that, gone that direction and that route, and there was something in you that wasn't a calling for you to do that. And I think that happens to youth sometimes because they get caught in these lanes, these fast tracks. You know, it's kind of like a train. They get into these rails, and somewhere along the way they realize that's not who or what they are. There's not a calling to do that. And when it gets real difficult, you know, then they start to fall apart, and then they have to aid themselves to get strong in that moment. And sometimes, you know, because they're falling apart, you know, they go to things like the drugs and the alcohol and the different abuses and the over sexualization and the you know, some young dudes like to go scrap it out or whatever it is, to try to make themselves feel stronger because they're not feeling whole, they're not feeling accomplished, or they're not doing what their calling is. And then what happens, I think, sometimes too, is you're putting all your energy and all your psychological, spiritual, and physical resources into something, sports or something that's not your calling, and you are kind of like distracted from maybe what your real calling is. You're not even listening to what the real calling is. So I think, to me, it sounds real beautiful to hear you say, like, you know, hey, this is something that was good, I was doing it, but it wasn't for me, and I was able to find what my calling is. I know, you know, I'm a little bit older than you, but I know, like, you get a little bit older in the tooth, and I've had this experience where you're doing something, you're good at it, and you just realize one day, like, this maybe not be for me, or these things that I do are not for me. I know people that are in different types of you know, whether it's different types of sobriety from, you know, alcohol or drugs, whatever, they go through that moment at some point where they're living a lifestyle and they realize this isn't for me, and they find a way to kind of get away from that, and you have to change. Sometimes you have to change your friends, you have to change your location, you have to change, but you just realize that track you're on, where does it lead? And for some people, relationships might lead to heartbreak. You know, relationships with substances are going to lead to death. You know, in the news not too long ago, there was a young rapper, you know, he's making music about pills and all these things, and then he dies, and they find out, he was on all kinds of drugs and stuff, you know. And it's like these train tracks that people get on, they lead somewhere, and sometimes you have to kind of stop everything and go, wait a minute, is there a way to redirect my energy, my channels? Is there any way to kind of find a calling, you know? And I do believe that too. I believe that our ancestors, not just our area, but all areas, that, you know, you go all around, you hear ceremonies, you know, they have the Native American Church, you know, they take things to help that channeling, to help that calling. I've had the honor of participating in a few ceremonies in my lifetime, where you go without food and water. I've gone without food, water, and talking for numerous days. There's ceremonies that you're dancing in the sun. There's where you go without, and in those moments where you're really going without, it's like you get to that point, and it's like we're living in the flesh. We're so caught up living in the flesh where you're always about I'm hungry, I better eat something. I'm thirsty, I better drink something. I wanted my brain to be totalized with something on TV or my phone or my this or that. But just to say, no, let's get away from the flesh a little bit. It's not worry about yourself. Let's get to kind of ground zero of understanding of your being. Sometimes that's getting out in nature and just touching the earth. Sometimes being clean water. Sometimes you have to go without food and water and get away from life in some essence. And you start to get into a different realm. Again, these are language things. A lot of the stuff we describe as English, that's not our traditional language. So our ancestors had different ways of expressing these understandings. But you might say you get away from life, you get more towards like the spirit world. Like Young Guns, you're in a spirit world now. But it's like you really do kind of get that way. You go without water, you get delusional. You go without food, you get delusional. You start having these like whoa. But then when everything calms, you do get like a sense of knowing and understanding. And all nations, you find people that have had those experiences where they talk about we have these great vision quests or these search for knowledge, and you had to go sacrifice great, and then the medicine came, the songs came. My tribe, we talk about for our origin stories of our songs. We say there was a time where our leaders got together and they wanted goodness for the people to come together, and they did. They went for a sacrifice. They went out and no food, no water, all of these things, and they prayed, and then the Creator, my house, sent down procession of animals, and each one of them showed them what to do, but they didn't listen. And it was the last animal showed, this is what you do, and that's where our main core of songs came from. And then from there, our people have been able to sing and dance, have a good time since. But even in that story, you see that part where the old ones got together and they were like, we need a sacrifice for this. And throughout that story, every animal does the opposite. They want to take, and then they lose out, whether it's their voice, they lose out their strength or their color or their beauty, and the message throughout the whole thing is you got to give, and you have to be receptive to new learnings. And I always think about what made our people so resilient over these tens of thousands of years and beyond, since millennia, since time immemorial we've been here, is that we're so resilient because we are learning people. We do like to learn, and then nature changes, the environment changes, climate changes every 4,000 years. We've been here way beyond that, so we've had to change with the climate, and so we have embedded in all of our cultures throughout Turtle Island that we have to be open to learning and to experiencing one another and to have and seek our callings. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I know people do. Various traditional and maybe things that have fallen out of tradition to kind of excite that calling, to search that out and whatnot. But I think it's powerful if people can't find their calling, if they can't find what's strong, especially youth. Right now there's an epidemic of teen suicide, epidemic of the opioid crisis, all of these things that when you get down to it, you take a 10-year-old, 11-year-old kid who maybe hasn't experienced a lot of those feelings yet, they're going to come into a time of being where they are going to need help. We need to start trying to develop them as individuals so that they're strong enough to be resilient to get through those phases of life. Mm-hmm. And not everybody gets a blessing of a ceremony or a blessing of an epiphany to go, what, this isn't right for me, man. Mm-hmm. So these days, what are you doing these days, man?
I'm working hard, man. Like I said, I'll go back to what I was saying, so like I decided to do my medicine. And I went into a sweat, and an elder came to me in that sweat, and he said, what you're looking for with this medicine. He said, you're going to find it in the water, the fire, the air, the stars, the trees, animals. And he's like, get accustomed to that. Get accustomed to that, and then come back into this world, meaning like, once you understand those creations, then come take this medicine because you'll be more grounded instead of taking it and kind of being thrown into this world. Not saying I don't know it, but I don't know about other spirits. And what I've been told is, as a spirit, everything I already understand. It's just us as humans, as spirits, that have yet to understand what all the other creations already know. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I was told. So he was saying that someone took over your house, meaning a spiritual house, and he was saying that when we were created, we were given the ability to govern a house, meaning like a spiritual house. And in this house, this is where like our people were able to like conjugate plans and healing. And I guess you could say it's kind of like going to another world. Like you go to this world and then you come back and you heal your people, and you it's basically like this place, you know. And I'll share it just because I got the black stone from the Apache people, and they say that their creator Pikal, you know, he resides in darkness. He resides in a place of nothing, where nothing exists, no sound, no light. And that nothing though comes everything, you know. And that's what I'm getting back to, and that's what I'm trying to say with this world, is it's like a place of nothing, but in that world is nothing. So what he was saying is that somebody took over your house. Not took it over, but more so like, let's say you left a bike laying out for 10 years and someone was like, hey, you know what? I gave it 10 years and, you know, that's a cool bike and no one's picking it up. Might as well just go ride it and pick it up. And that's basically what I'm trying to say is this other entity just walked into our house because we haven't been taking care of it right. So that's what he said is basically get this right and then clean up your house because someone's in your house. So after that, I started getting involved, like I said, with my brothers in Oklahoma. So I have a family in Oklahoma as part of NAC.
Mm-hmm.
So with them, I pray with, peyote, and like I said, my dad passed last year. And, I'm not really with the whole church way of putting away people, So what I did is I called my friends, my relatives, and I wanted to have a real ceremony, a ceremony to really like acknowledge my father and actually have that time, outside of the couple words from the Bible and some dirt on the ground and then you bury your loved one. I wanted to have that real time, just like our people, they'd have up to 3 days, to mourn their loved ones and have everything to give them that respect, as they were here.
Sure.
And to give them that to go on with their journey. So that's why I called my relatives in. And in that, I built a lodge. And at the time, this lodge was real rugged. But, that helped me heal. That peyote really helped me heal and understand, I guess the natural cycle of death in a good, healthy way without it coming at me so angry or so depressive or so sad. I got to understand it in a real terms of life and death to know that it happens to every man and woman and no man or woman can escape, and it's going to happen to me, it's happen to all of us. So that medicine really helped me grasp that as a young man, because, like I said, see my father die, I watched his spirit leave. And like I said, to heal from that, it makes me feel good because I know some people that haven't healed from their lost ones or haven't even found out how to heal from their lost ones, being not with them or, not being able to feel like they got to say goodbye to their loved ones or have that moment, to acknowledge them in a good way without it being so rushed, And so like I said, I got involved with that and then I started getting into my medicine and I was like, I got to do this in here. So I started doing my medicine within the lodge, and I got all my bros from Oklahoma, New Mexico, Arizona. They're all coming out, I'm flying them in, and I'm really proving to myself that this works, because as people we got to test stuff, we got to make sure that we're doing something that it clicks,
Sure.
So I was getting a lot of people, I was getting my bros Christians, some Catholics, some people who don't even believe in anything. So I was just testing the waters, just to make sure. And so I don't know if you know about Oakland.
What's going on with Oakland?
Okay, so on Oakland, the people decrim nature. Oakland, they're one of the very few people in the countries. Like I said, only two cities in the country. Denver, Oakland, one of them to decriminalize psilocybin, magic mushrooms, and other ethnogenic plants. Such as peyote, ayahuasca, ibogaine. And other sorts of plants, and so basically just got in contact with them, just talking about how we have ceremony and we conduct sacred ceremonies that involve plant medicines, and basically got on board, had him on board and had him come down and we sweat, we prayed, and started working with him, and he fully supports the native movement and I guess using sacred medicines to help heal, oneself and using plant medicine. So that's a really good. A good beneficial, especially with the movement that is happening right now in California. And I think it'd be a good thing for Native people in California to start reestablishing ceremonies and their connections to the land bases they're from. And also, I guess, becoming better Native people with their connections to the Creator Mother Earth, something that a lot of tribes are lacking today in spirituality and prayer and ceremonies and having that respect for that life.
I hear always so much from different nations. They say we talk a lot about political sovereignty, talk a lot about economic sovereignty, and now a new one is like, oh, what about food sovereignty? Some tribes I know in our region down here, you start talking about energy sovereignty. Let's get into harnessing the energy of the sun with solar panels and all that. But I think we got to look back, not too far back, and think about our spiritual sovereignty. We have the act that protects the American Indian Freedom Religions Act, that's there to protect our spiritual sovereignty. Because the reality is there are a lot of natives that are Christian now, various types of Christian now. But when Europeans and Christianities got to these shorelines, natives all over the Turtle Island had their own ways of interacting with their environment and their spiritual environment, and they had their own ceremonies to live their life, and they were living good lives. And that it was expressed in that act, that we're supposed to be able to celebrate and pray and have our own ceremony, have our own spiritual sovereignty. And I feel like that gets pushed off the table or forgotten sometimes.
Oh yeah, definitely. Or there's a lot of factors, like oh, you can do this prior to the factor of or limited to, when it's like, no, considering we're the first people, if Mormons, Catholics, Christians, Jews, you name it, Muslims can all have the freedom of religion. This country was founded on so-called freedom of religion. So why not grant the native people, especially when we're not even, a lot of the reservations are outside the borderlines of cities. Like, for instance, where I'm at, we're 30 miles from anybody in the local city, like Temecula, Escondido. So at the end of the day, I think government shouldn't even matter, because we're isolated and we're in designated places that are not as open to the public as if we were in a major city or some type of city like that. And I think it's a big next fight that we need to bring to the table, because some we're losing. We're losing our spirituality, our prayers, and our I guess our humility as people to be ceremonial praying people. And I think tribal councils should definitely start working towards that. And I think that should be one of their duties as tribal councils, to protect the rights and the rights of praying for their own people, and then tribal councils should fight for that, and they should protect that.
Yeah, and I feel there's a need when you look out Indian country and you start looking at the issues that are out there. And there's a lot, obviously, but some that are really people are talking about right now are the teen suicide. Youth are taking their lives. You're seeing the opioid and the drug abuse crisis going on right now. And, a lot of those things, they have roots in a lot of our youth being disconnected. And I know a lot of our tribal leadership are always looking for ways to get connected with the youth. And they start looking exterior. They start looking kind of, they're looking all over the place, but I don't know that they're looking to our spirituality. You go all over to the native tribes, all over, North America, South America, all over our hemisphere. And the one thing I always feel when you talk to really indigenous people around the world is that we all have a very spiritual connection to our land, to our being. And I know for me, I feel a spiritual connection to the land I live on. This is the land that my ancestors live on. I'll go down to to the shorelines, La Jolla, Del Mar, these places, and you go walking down there, and some of those people will give you a funky look because they that's their yard and their house there, and who's this guy walking on my street? And I always just wait for one of them to come out and say, "Excuse me, sir, what are you doing in my yard?" And it's like, first off, I'm taking your flowers. Second of all, but no, it's like, oh, this is your yard. Really? Your ancestors are buried inside of this soil. Your ancestors are, it's like, they're not.
Yeah.
But, but I have that connection everywhere we go. It's like, oh, really? Your ancestors are the ones that were praying on this land here. Your ancestors are the ones that were making babies on this land or eating on this land or urinating on this land for, time and millennia. No, those are my people that did that. That was my connection. And so when our people said, you're made from this earth, yeah, literally the earth and myself are one. We were made from this. The food that my ancestors ate came from that land. The animals that they ate to survive and to make clothes and all of their items came from that land. And when they passed on, they went back to that land to create part of that cycle. And I'm part of that cycle, and it's ongoing. And so I feel that spiritual connection, and there's ceremonies, I think, to strengthen that understanding. But you see that amongst all indigenous people where they talk about where they came from, that connection, who they are, and the connection to each other, and how to kind of touch upon that to strengthen themselves. So I think that to our youth, to all of our communities, really, people that, that we're so busy in the rat race, so busy trying to make money or economic development, or this person said this person said that. Same time, it's like a lot of that troubles would just kind of go away if we got a little bit back to the old way of thinking, to our spirituality. And everybody's spirituality doesn't have to be the same thing, I think.
Yeah,
and I think sometimes you see that, like, well, that's not how we did it. Well, if that's what works for you, good, but it doesn't mean that another way is not going to work for somebody else.
Yeah.
And I think that that's part of what was trying to be protected at that time, and that's something that I think our ancestors were willing to die for. I'm a traditional singer, so I know when I sing, I tell our youngsters, like, these are things that you should not take for granted, because our people were persecuted and killed for doing these things, but yet we still have them. So that tells you that somebody somewhere sacrificed a whole great lot. They probably sacrificed their life, their whole generation, maybe their family, to transmit these to the next generation. So if you're going to miss a Saturday afternoon because we're going singing, I mean, you don't have to go, but I'm not gonna
get on your ass.
Yeah, I'm not gonna feel so bad that you give up a Saturday. I don't feel bad when I give up a day of my life for these things, because I know someone probably gave a whole life up for that. And so we really should be willing to fight for it, or at least be willing to explore it and look into it. And so when you look at native spirituality, native religion, kind of gets, like, people want to call it, like, it's a bad word, but whatever people use to elevate themselves, or to pray, to do their ceremony, whatever, it's like, I think we have to be a little bit open-minded, and we have to get back to our roots a little bit. And our people have always been real resilient and dynamic to a little bit of change, and and they've always connected with nature, find things in nature that are very the base of what we live off of. The good, clean foods, clean waters, living on clean earth, taking those plants that were given to us in dreams and in visions, and using those as medicine. And so medicine, can be many things. I mean, people joke around and say, oh, laughter is the best medicine. But it is a good medicine. I know I feel better when I laugh,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And
it takes a lot away.
It does, and I think, like, what you're talking about with a lot of these different, I guess, what do they call hallucinogens? I guess psychedelics. That's probably the more better term for it, I guess. I don't know. People go right to, like, the 70s or 60s and
the Reagan era. And
oh yeah, I did the dare dance. Dare to keep the kids off drugs. And we had to make a little dance with it. And it's like, don't smoke marijuana, you'll die first time. It's like, what? Which is sad, because now they're lacing fentanyl in some of that marijuana, so I guess that really can't happen. At the time it couldn't, but now it can. It's like, whoa. So it's scary for kids, It's scary for, well, what it's scary for? It's scary for parents. I got teenagers, and I think, like, in my era, I knew it was BS when they said, you try some of this stuff, you're going to die. But at the same time, I didn't want to get caught in a behavior, so I always stayed away from it. But nowadays, it's like,
it's real.
No, man, you might literally die.
Yeah, someone will give you some lace stuff, or think they're giving you some, and shit, you're dead. I mean, look at all these people dying right now. I'm pretty sure some of it has to do with them thinking they're getting a legit drug, and that shit could be lace. Not saying that people have to get them, but who's to say, when you're with certain people, someone could easily be, an insider of Fed or not like you, and easily know that, hey, this guy likes drugs, so if I have a certain drug, he won't even know, and he takes it and he's dead, and I just did my job. And that's what I mean by, be careful, these people don't know, because there are things out there that are laced, that aren't fully the right thing that you think you're taking, and I think that's what's happening to the people that are dying right now, like these rappers and celebrities. It's like, they're so used to their habits, and they catch slipping, and they will get something like fentanyl, or they will get something that they thought was this medicine, and it ends up killing them, what I mean? So, like, it's real, and I see that, and I see it in a lot of different things, and that's why I think it's good that we need to bring back spirituality and ceremony, because it kind of, I'm not saying it teaches you how to act, but it gives you that, I guess, kind of like, like when you get your ass whooped, you got your ass whooped, and in ceremony you'll know, like, you need to work on yourself, or you need to get rid of, like, some bad luggage or some bad habits, because this could happen if you continue to stay in it. And ceremony is a good way of, like, showing you it before it happens. It's kind of like, hey, you're doing this right now, But if you continue to do this in the future, this is all that can entail with it, you know. And that's what I think some people need, that instead of just like your mom or dad saying, don't do that, don't do that. And you need to actually hear like the spirits or the medicine like tell you like, hey, like you're going to die or you're going to get sick or something to happen to your family and your friends. Like, I think some people need to hear that, you know, just like they say some people need to get burnt to know it's hot, you know. So I think some teenagers nowadays, they need to get that little spiritual gut check to say, hey, you better check yourself because you're going down a path that leads to death, that leads to separation of your family, confusion of yourself, isolating your place, in a place called loneliness. And it's like, they made all that stuff for us. They made it all to isolate us and to get us lost. So it's like, now's the best time to, like, what they say, decolonize, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, like, as a parent, my thing is I want my children to feel strong. I want them to feel whole. You know, I want them to be well, you know, and I think every parent has that for their little ones or for their nieces and nephews. And, you know, we should all want that for our kids, our youth, for each other, you know, even people that are older trying to figure it out still. We want that for one another, for our families to feel whole, to feel strong, feel well. And we know that we've all, you know, gone through times in our life where we have done, you know, we've been in situations where we're not in a good place, you know, and we're angry or we feel insecure. I mean, everybody has those moments, and we find ways to get through it or to strengthen ourselves from it. And sometimes we do make the wrong mistake in the middle of that, you know, and sometimes that's drinking. You know, you're sad, you know, you lost a family member or something, you start drinking, and next thing you know, you go down a rabbit hole and you don't come out for 10 years, you know, or you get depressed, you know, your good one and only left you, you know, and she went with someone else, and now, you know,
all day, every day.
Now you're around the res like a res dog, or all sniffing around, you know, and deep inside you, you're just at home missing her, you know, but it's like, but you know, these are like, you're acting out because you're not feeling whole, you're not feeling strong, you're not being well, and it's like, you know, people can sometimes get through that and they come out the other side and they have that clarity and they're able to get back on track. But nowadays, you get a young person to get involved in something like that. They're looking, and someone gives them the wrong substance, and then that's it. They're done. Their life's over, and that's the scary part. And so, you know, sometimes you learn. I feel like you obviously have learned this, and I've learned this is that ceremony and prayer can really help you in those moments, you know. And I think that's something our ancestors, that's a gift they gave us to know that, you know, to remember that. Check yourself before you wiggity wreck yourself. You know, they're like, don't go do drugs, you know, take a deep breath. Let's pray a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's pray. Let's do that instead.
That's what I say about ceremony. At least you're getting it in ceremony and this shit not happening in real life.
Yeah.
Because this is showing you what's to come if you don't stop. So
right.
It's like, at least you're getting pre-warned, because some people don't get pre-warned and they're dead. Yeah. They're cutting their throat. They're taking pills. They're getting a drunk DUI crash. Yeah. They're killing someone. They're fighting their spouse, whatever. So it's like, some people don't get that pre-warning, and that's why I say I think it'd be better for people to get that pre-warning. We're not saying it's going to change them, but at least they'll have a little bit better chance to be like, yo, I'm in a little deep right now, and I got to pump my brakes before I fucking spin out and crash and die. You know what I mean? Because that's real. You know, like I always tell people, the farther you are away from Creator Mother Earth, the closer you are to death. You know, and like that's real to me. Like that's how I feel about it, and I just expressed to people.
I think it's like, real for our area, man. You go to too many funerals and say it's not.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
you
like, dude, that's what I told my lady, you know, my wife. I was like, because she, you know, she's from the res too, but, you know, she just, you know, I was explaining to her, just around here, man, funerals all the time. Like, even being a little kid, you know, by the time I was 13, I've already been to, like, 15 plus funerals, and I talked to people in public school. They've only been to, like, one, you know what I mean? And I'm like, shit, on the res, there's one, like, every month, every 2 months, every 3 weeks sometimes. I was like, shit, and especially in the times of like November and December, there's always people with 3, there's always things going, and I'm just like, it's real, you know. We see, I feel like, I'm not trying to put ourselves down, but I feel like we've seen a lot more death than actual life, you know, because we've seen a lot of what's been taken from us and the effects of when we're without, you know. And I think it's time now to just dust our shoulders off, because this shit happened, and fucking, it's hard, you know, and I can speak for myself going through what I've been through, and I know everyone else is going through things. But I think now is the best time to just shake that shit off and, like, put on back our strength as Native people and fucking ride with that shit. Because, I mean, this shit's beautiful. Like, and I'm not meaning the staff. I'm meaning, like, what
Well, the
this all
beads are beautiful for
represents,
sure
you know,
now,
what
but
it
yeah, for
represents,
sure.
You know, the
For
water,
sure.
the air, the plants, the animals, the people, the
Yeah.
stars. It's everything in correlation. And to me, that's who we are. We are the
Yeah.
plants. We are the animals. We are the stars, the trees, the moon, the water, the ground. And I want to stay that way, you know, because for me, I feel no more natural than when I'm in prayer and when I'm in these mountains or getting spring water or cedars or picking sage or even just going for a walk to know that my ancestors prayed here. My ancestors gave all what they could here and they made it work without
Sure.
all the shit we got. And so that means I can make it and I can make it even better because I have these resources now. I'm not in the say that I'm struggling. I have every right to be a better Indian. And that's what I want other Indians to know.
Sure.
Is while the time you have now, you could definitely become a better Indian for tomorrow and be the new Indian for tomorrow because a lot of people don't even really know what an Indian is outside of like Hollywood and the powwows and shit. And it's like, we can create that new image now, you know, and that's what I try to be, you know, like I may not have my regalia and all that, but it's like, no, it's 2019, you know, I ain't going to be in no buckskin. I'd love to have all that. But at the end of the day, I know I'm modern and I know that I'm colonized, you know, and I'm not going to say that I'm not because we all are.
You're not just going to rock the loincloth just once?
Yeah, I'd love to. But at the end of the day, it's still beautiful representing this because at the end of the day, like, this is how I got to come because this is the world we're in. This is the time we're in. We wear clothes. You know, we do things like this. So it's like, that's what it is. But at the end of the day, this still stands the way it is.
Absolutely. And, you know, like our people lived within the rhythm of nature, man. They had to look forward. They had to know what was coming. And they had to do their best to try to guesstimate and prepare and plan. And so I always tell people, because I think on the reservation we became very reactive, sit and wait. But our people used to not be like that. They used to be very proactive. They were storing up for the winter. They were, you know, making things. And that's the thing about what you're talking about, you know, like, okay, let's get together, start getting back to ceremony, start praying. Let's start strengthening ourselves so when hard times do come, we're in a good position to deal with it. We're set.
And our kids
It's be proactive.
Have to struggle.
Yeah.
You know, like you're talking earlier about the water, like for instance, in Morongo right now, I'm going through this struggle, you know, because we own Arrowhead. We own the biggest bottling plant in California.
Oh, I forget that.
And like,
I knew I liked that water for some reason.
And I went up there and I was just expressing to them, like, you guys are so good at selling our brand, right? Like, you sell Morongo, we're $1 billion casino, but yet you can't put this emphasis into this water. Like, it's going to be very foolish of us in the future to have this much fresh water, to have to go buy water from somewhere else because a shitty ass company like Arrowhead took all of our water. And, you know, they sell it because we get a water bonus, we get all this shit, but they sell it. And so they have a deal with Arrowhead, and I'm just like, the money they're giving us, they're making like 10 times more than that. Because Arrowhead just don't sell in California. Arrowhead sells worldwide, you know what I'm saying? So like that water isn't just going to California.
Well, I know that
the whole country.
I've driven to Maine. Literally, I drove to Maine one time, and I know this is a trippy thing that I learned is if you go like to a Walmart or a Kmart, like, you know, those big places, because a lot of places in the United States, they don't have 50 stores to buy some. There's like 3 or 4 stores in town, right? But if you go to every one of them, they have the same water that we have here, but they just have a different label. Same label style, but just a different name. And it's like, so maybe it's Arrowhead here because we're in California, but you go over like 4 or 5 states, it's whatever lakes in their state. And it's like,
but it's all part of Nestle.
It's the same thing. It's the same label, same color, same look, same. The water tastes pretty much the same, but it's the same. And it's like, and then their little knockoff, like, is the blue, and then there's the Arrowhead red. Like the water shelves look the same. It's like, weird.
What I'm trying to tell my tribe is like, we should be investing in that because that's gold. I'm not saying I want to create the economy with it, but if so, why not have it in case? But if not, then we can resupply our canyons, everything, because our canyon's fucking dry. You know what I mean? Everything's dry, and that's because they divert the water, you know? And it's like, you bring the water back, you bring back the environment. More deer come around, more animals, so the game, everything comes back. But you take the water, animals leave because they got to go find water. You know what I mean? They got to go find other places. So that's what I'm trying to invest with my tribe is like, hey, like, I know the money's cool. You know, don't get me wrong, the money's cool. But that water is more important. If we run out of, let's say the casinos went, if we had full sovereignty over water, that's gold. Because, you know what I mean? With that water, you can produce crops, you can do sustainability, you can create many different forms of sustainability, you know? But if you don't have water, you're shit out of luck, you know what I mean? And that's what I try to bring to my tribe is like, this is silly. Like, I get it, you guys want some money, but with this amount of water we have and like the amount of money they make, why can't that be our label? Or why can't we just say, hey, we're saving this for us? Like, you have no right to sell our water. You know what I mean? And it's that
Sure.
simple. You know, it really is. But because there's millions of dollars involved, yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, I'll sell my water because you're giving me millions of dollars.
Well, I think that's the challenge of the next generation for sure is to, you know, it used to just be we got to try to survive. And then the next generation is like, okay, we're going to survive, but we need to try to create some economic development and whatever makes that dollar. But I feel like, you know, the next generation has to be real nitpicky on how we're going to make that dollar.
Yeah.
And in particular, how are we going? Because we've already seen it as
Just
Indian
like
tribes.
They got a lot of oil up there. You
Yeah,
know?
in the tribes here in our region, really all over the United States, we've seen the water wars come and go. But here in San Diego, you know, I come from a tribe here, Viejas. The next tribe over, our next tribe is over Verona. We both were booted out of our village space down there. Capitan, yeah, they took that water for the El Capitan Reservoir, you know, in the 30s. And so man, yeah, there's a lot going on out there, but it's good that we have an attention put on our environment. You know, that's again, like I think that's a challenge of the next generation. So if people want to get a hold of you, or they want to or follow you, or kind of learn more, how can they get a hold of you? How can they see you, man?
I have an Instagram. It's MedSuStrong. You just type in MedSuStrong, MEDZZZTOOSTRONG, just MedSuStrong.
Okay.
Or you can go on internet and look up Church of the People for Creator and Mother Earth.com. You just type it in the URL, just full like that, Church of the People for Creator Mother Earth, and it should take you to my website. On there, you can get a little insight of what we do at the church, you know, and also you can get a hold of me through there.
All right, man. Well, thanks for coming in. We appreciate it. You have a good night, man. Live from the Rez. We out.
Yeah.